Hi, Josh Carr here again, Carr Real Estate. Um, there have been some real changes in Excel recently. They introduced this concept of dynamic arrays, and a number of people have reached out to me to ask how exactly this works. So I wanted to give you a very simple example of what a dynamic array is and why you might consider using one. For example, here is possibly the world's dumbest cash flow. We have here rent and expenses and net operating income, and maybe these are years. The old way of doing this would have been something like, let's say you've got line 10, which is NOI. And maybe sometimes NOI is on line 10 or sometimes it's on line 20, but either way, you want to pull it down to the same place. So you'd pick a line, say like line 14, and you'd do a VLOOKUP and you'd say, what am I looking for? That's B14. Where am I looking forward? That's the red zone. What column am I trying to pull down? And that true false, that fourth argument there, that's exact match, not an exact match, basically. So what that's saying in plain English is look for net operating income on line 10, look for it in the red zone, in the second column, pull it down. And if you did that for the second column, the third column, the fourth column, the fifth column, the sixth column, you could then, for example, do a sum, an average, a count. Sum, average, count. And you may notice, by the way, that in this case, the way it's written out there is that's using a formula text function. That's always useful if you write a function and then you want to show people like what you wrote in the formula. You can just do a formula text. It'll pull it to the side. It's nice and clean. The problem, of course, is that if you want to add on additional years, you've got to add a column, and then you got to be like, okay, I'm going to, drag that across, and then that's the eighth column, and then you'll have to put in like 245 and 107, and this minus that. You get the idea. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but you could do it. And as you could see, there's a sum, there's an average, et cetera, et cetera. You could do that. And then in this case, it kind of got broken, but, it has its issues. The cleaner way to do it, I think, is this. You just basically say, instead of doing sum from C14 to I14, you could do an XLOOKUP. And if you did an XLOOKUP, it's the same concept as a VLOOKUP, but it's a little bit more elegant. Now, instead of counting columns like column 2, 3, 4, 5, you could just say, look for NOI, that's the blue item, look for it in the red area, and find its friend, its match, in the purple area. And since I highlighted the whole purple area, it just autofills that entire area. You'll notice there's a blue line around line 21. That's basically a way of saying, hey, you put in information in C21, we're going to autofill all the way over to I21. Now, the fun part is, now instead of saying sum C14 to I14, you could just sum C21 pound sign. The pound sign is new. That's a way of saying, hey, we created something that grows or shrinks dynamically. We know it's starting at C21, and just go until you get to the end of the dynamic array. The reason that's useful is, and here's kind of the point, is that if I insert a column, it just flows automatically. The old way, I'd have to put in like column 8, I'd have to do a new VLOOKUP, etc. With this, because I inserted a column and I grew it, it automatically grew. The purple zone automatically grew as I inserted new columns. And since it's automatically growing the purple zone, anything that I refer to as the result of this XLOOKUP, because XLOOKUP, again, that's how we're creating the dynamic array, anything that refers to that XLOOKUP, we could just say the sum of C21 pound, the average of C21 pound, the count of C21 pound, and, if you insert a few more rows or a few more columns, then as I put in, say, 107, 108, 110, this stuff is all auto-filling, Whereas here, I would have had to go the next step, drag this thing across. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying it's a little bit of extra work, you know. And this became 8 somehow. Okay, well, that's annoying. The point basically is that with if I do a sum, if I do it the old way, it's a little clunky, whereas if I do the new way XLOOKUP, just as I automatically grow the area, it grows. And you know what's fun is once you start referring to C21, you can do anything with it. I mean, you could be, for example, if I just did C21 pound and just pressed enter, it would auto-generate what I just referred to, right? And then you could use that in other things. You could be like, hey, what's the max of C21 pound? What's C21 pound times 2? And there it is. It just took that and it multiplied it by 2, or whatever makes you happy. That's nice. I mean, it's a nice way to work with things. Anyway, that's a dynamic array. XLOOKUPs create them. There are a lot of other ways to make them, but I've been using this. If you work in asset management, you often have a cash flow, and you're adding on another column of cash flow, another row of tenant, something like that. And then as you expand the space, it expands. That's the basic idea. Anyway, if this sort of stuff fills you with joy, feel free to check out my website at carrealestate.com. I teach this sort of stuff all the time, or just, leave me a comment in the comments. And of course, until I see you again, keep building better models. Thanks again. Bye.